Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm outside practice. Again, it's the same thing as last week where we get to watch about 15 to 20 minutes of drills. However, we're not able to film or take photos, so that's disappointing. I know many of you like that, but I'll definitely provide as much insight into observations that I noticed in this viewing period. I'll be paying attention to the safeties, the freshman safeties there. I'm also going to be paying very close eye on Charleston Rambo. And if you've been following these videos, practice videos and reports, there was a time where I was saying, Charleston's kind of dealing with some drops in practice, but certainly he's turned that into a positive. He's been one of the best wide receivers in the ACC, so he definitely deserves credit for not letting some things in practice kind of affect him. Again, we're only able to see certain amounts, but I did notice that early on in the year, so I want to just point that out again. And then Tyler Van Dyke, very curious to see how he performs against Florida State. And for those who haven't seen yet, definitely check out the preview video that I did with Charles Fishbein. Definitely check that out and provide memories and kind of thoughts on the big picture of these programs. So definitely thank everybody for watching, and I'll check back with observations from this media viewing period, see how it goes. Thanks. So we just wrapped up watching about 15 minutes of practice. It was 3 sessions. The big news, and definitely something to pay attention to for the game on Saturday, is safety James Williams was in a non-contact red jersey, and cornerback Tyreek Stevenson was in also a red jersey. And by the looks of it, kind of watching him go through drills, it definitely looks like James Williams is dealing with a left shoulder injury. He was holding it limp when he would do some drills. Sometimes when they would throw passes to the defensive backs, he actually wouldn't get a pass thrown to him. Kind of just watching him walk from drill to drill. It definitely looked to be laboring. Again, if you've dealt with shoulder injuries, you'll know what I'm talking about, because the pain looked evident. He didn't want to lift his shoulder very much. And we'll just have to wait and see for Saturday how he's going to perform, if he's going to be able to play. I definitely think it's something to watch for. I don't feel like it's just something that they're automatically he's going to play through. Just based on today's practice, he certainly looked to be laboring once again. So definitely something to watch for. As far as Tyreek Stevenson goes, it was a little bit harder to notice what he was dealing with an injury. However, I did see him wince a little bit after making a catch on a drill, and it looked like it could be his right shoulder. Like I said, it definitely wasn't as evident as James Williams was with his injury. But if I were to guess, I would say that's maybe what he's dealing with. Again, these are just guesses. It's not been talked about with the coaches, and Manny Diaz is not scheduled to talk to us until after tomorrow's practice. So just some observations. Those are 2 big ones. Definitely worth watching. If James Williams is unable to go or unable to play at a high level, that would be a first opportunity for Avanti Williams to get substantial playing time, maybe even a first start. You guys saw his interception last week, so Avanti Williams would be next man in. And that cornerback, it's really been interesting how they've kind of rotated different guys in. Tyreek Stevenson has been getting the bulk of the snaps at cornerback while the other guys have been rotating in. So he gets almost all of the snaps. And then, like I said, other guys, Marcus Clark, Corey Couch, DJ Ivy are the other guys rotating in. So if Tyreek's unable to play or unable to be effective, those other guys just get an elevated role. So something to watch for there. As far as some other things, Jalen Knighton last week was in that red jersey. I asked Manny Diaz if that's something we'll see maybe moving forward in this final month of the year, but he was in a regular jersey today, so he could take contact, but I'm sure they definitely want to protect him as much as possible. If you didn't see the news, but Cody Brown, Thad Franklin, Rhett Lashley admitted that both of those guys need to step up, and they'd like to get them in the mix more. Jalen Knighton, 32 carries, tied for the 10th most in single game history last week, the most since Dallas Crawford about 8 years ago. So not ideal for Jalen, but they do want to get him the ball as much as possible. But they admitted, look, maybe he wasn't as effective down the stretch because of the carries. So we'll see. Jalen said he felt great after the game. We'll have to see if those other 2 guys, Thad Franklin in particular, he's a guy that I know many of you are curious about, if he can actually get in the mix. He only has 1 carry outside of the Central Connecticut State game, where he did well and performed in that game. So we'll see if Thad can impress in practices. Other notable things, I know it was reported that Usman Traore, a reserve offensive lineman, was not at the game. The offensive linemen, as you know, were on the clear other end of the field, but I did see a 66 offensive lineman, Sometimes guys could wear a scout team uniform, but Florida State's prominent guys, nobody wears 66 on offensive line. So I would say that he was out there, even though like the big indicator is seeing the sticker on the back of the helmet, but they were too far away to notice that. But just some housekeeping stuff with him. Maybe some other observations. There were about 5 or 6 NFL scouts here today. I couldn't see all the teams represented, but I did see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Philadelphia Eagles here. So that was good. As you know, it's the final month of the regular season. I think we'll see this more and more as the season ends. There's a lot of guys that will be looking to be picked in kind of their final seasons here. I did think it was notable that a staffer pointed out to the scouts which one Tyreek Stevenson was. Again, he was in the red jersey. Red jerseys do not have numbers, but the staffer made sure to point out to the scout, like, hey, that's Tyreek over there. Kind of keep your eye on him. As you guys know, Tyreek Stevenson, a third-year guy, draft eligible. If I were to guess, I would assume he's going to leave, but certainly he could come back and try to have an even better individual campaign next year. But it just seemed like the way Tyreek spoke about his transfer coming to Miami, he was always looking at the draft. He was always looking, have a big year, a good year, kind of prove that he could be an outside cornerback. Like I said, he's been pretty solid according to the Pro Football Focus stats and kind of individual statistics on the analytics. So if I were to guess, I would just kind of assume that he would go. Maybe another draft eligible guy to talk about is Jared Williams. He's a guy, 7th-year senior offensive tackle. He's been performing well. He's been Miami's highest graded offensive lineman. He's been the 2nd highest offensive lineman with regular snaps in the ACC. So he's done well. Again, these are all about Pro Football Focus ratings. You could take those with a grain of salt, but it's the data that we have in front of us. So just passing that along. And I do think it's consistent with how Jared has looked. He's been very good in pass blocking. Run blocking needs to improve a little bit, but he's good finesse, big offensive tackle there. So he's doing well. Miami certainly needed that to kind of solidify the line. Maybe some other observations today. I saw Charleston Rambo make a nice catch. They were working on some, about a 20-yard catch where you catch the ball and you make sure to get your toes right inside the pylon, the closest pylon. He made a nice catch, and then Jacoby George kind of followed it up, looked very similar, and kind of just brought me to the point of Jacoby. He's a guy that we've not seen a lot in games. However, if you're talking about comps and maybe who he'll look like, I do think there are some comparisons to Charleston, and I'm sure that they're going to look to maybe show him Charleston either in film and just definitely tell him, like, hey, watch this guy really closely in practice, because I'm sure that they would like to get same sort of production for Jacoby later in his career. Just something to watch for. They're very similar body size. Like I said, the comps, if you're into that, they both can get downfield and kind of that fluid body and similar height, weight. So that was just an observation. Another thing I want to mention before I wrap this thing up, but Miami is working on some fumbling drills, both for the offensive guys and defensive guys. And I did notice Elijah Arroyo took a small, short catch. Basically, you have one defender on you and then another defender waiting to tackle you. And Elijah, he got the ball ripped away from him by Keontra Smith. So just something notable there. Obviously, it goes both ways. Really good play by Keontra on the play. Elijah certainly has to secure that play. He was actually asked to redo the rep afterwards. So I am curious to ask Coach Diaz. We saw some fumbles last game. I'm curious if there's punishment, what these guys have to do to kind of improve their ball security, whether it's playing time or running after practice or whatever the discipline might be with that. So a little curious about that. So anyways, that's going to wrap things up. Some observations from practice today. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out that video, the FSU preview video. We really get into some things. I know it's a long one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But thanks again for watching, and take care.